Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to go over the major settings that are really killing your FPS, and we are setting a baseline right now. I finally got the MSI Afterburner overlay up top so that you guys can see my FPS and frame time and 1% lows and stuff like that. So we are starting from somewhere around 53 to 55 FPS on an average right now, and you can see all the other stats. If you have questions about any of these stats, let me know down in the comment section. And I also have left my PC specs in the description down below. Now we are here at IAD in Phoenix A320, and I'm going to keep this view similar because depending on where you're looking at, the frame rates can be widely different, and we want to keep the test environment similar when we are changing settings. So yeah, we'll keep this view and we'll optimize our sim to get the max possible performance out of it, while not sacrificing a whole lot on the visuals and the quality. Okay, so we are starting off at 53 FPS. I think let's go into the settings menu. One of the main things, now again, the format of this video is going to be like me walking through these settings and showing you how much FPS gain I'm getting from changing each of these. I've tested these myself, so I am going to structure it in a way that, okay, these are the major settings that you would want to change on your sim if you have a low end system, to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Now again, you need to do your own testing, right? This is just a guideline for you guys to follow. And if you're looking for an upgrade to 9950 X3D, this is kind of like a benchmark video on what you would see in terms of performance when paired with a RTX 4080. So I'm running TAA right now, and remember our baseline is 53 to 55 FPS. So one of the main things, if you really want some performance out of your system, is, it might sound obvious, but that's switching to DLSS and either quality or balanced. So let's see what kind of performance we get with DLSS quality. So moving on to DLSS quality, I was able to get somewhere around 5 to 6 FPS back, because I was running 53 to 55 FPS while I'm now clocking somewhere in that 59 FPS range. And I have the 1% lows here, so let me turn that on as well. I have to turn the benchmark thing on so that the 1% lows start updating. So very stable 59 FPS and 52 FPS 1% lows. So that's one of the main things that you'd want to change, is DLSS shifted to quality. Okay, let's see how much gain we get if we shift it to balanced. So if we go balanced, we gain maybe one frame here, going from 59 to 60 to 61. But I'll tell you that when you're running balanced, you'll see that your displays are quite messed up. Like, you'll see the EFB text and everything is blurred out, and when you're moving around these windows, you'll see how blurry things get. So I wouldn't recommend running anything less than quality, because as you saw, quality to balanced is not a huge change in frame rates, right? So you're better off running this at quality. Reflex low latency is on and boost, just so that we get low latency on our controls. One of the other things that I want to talk about is the terrain level of detail. That's a setting that you would want to change if you have a low end system. So by the way, these are not the settings that I use. I'll go over each one of them and show you the difference. TLOD is set to 250, but let me re-baseline our system here. So what are we doing right now? 60 FPS? Okay. So now if we push the TLOD to, let's say, 100, which is something that I recommend for low end systems at least, you will see that, let me go back here. So our GPU, watch out on our GPU memory, okay? Our GPU memory was somewhere around 13.5 GB being used out of the 16 GB that I have. And now you'll see that that has reduced by at least close to 800 MB to 1 GB. So as much as people say TLOD is dependent on your CPU, even if you have a really strong CPU but you don't have as much VRAM on your GPU, your TLOD setting matters for the GPU as well. So I would say limit this, even if you have a very strong CPU, limit this to whatever your GPU VRAM is capable of. So I would say for me, I would run somewhere around 200, 250 so that even when I'm going into very heavy airports, I'd still be getting nice and stable above 60 FPS performance. So let's see what we end up with here at 200. So we were on 60. Right now we are going 61, 61, 62, 58. Okay, so it didn't change much. So that means that I can still push it to maybe 250 here. Because remember, whatever performance you're getting on the ground, you're always going to get better performance in the air. So tweak your sim to get satisfying performance on the ground and you should be fine in the air. So again, like I said, I've moved it to 250 and I still didn't see a whole lot of FPS penalty here. I'm like 60 FPS logged right now. Let me see if this 1% low is really working, because that's a low 1% low for me. Okay, yeah, now it's updating. I don't know how this works yet, but I think I have to just keep updating the benchmark on and off thing to make sure that it is working. But yeah, our 1% lows right now are 52 FPS. So let's move on to the third thing I think. So first one was DLSS Super Res set to quality. Second one was your TLOD. Make sure you sweep the TLOD to make to optimize it for your CPU and GPU. You could be limited by VRAM here. That's the catch. Off-screen terrain pre-caching is set to ultra. That's not a major hitter, but always leave it to ultra even for low-end settings. The third setting that I want to talk about is displacement mapping. If you're seeing low performance, remember our baseline was 60 here. Now if I turn on displacement mapping, you will see that our FPS has dropped from 60 to somewhere around 54, 55. So you lost close to 5 FPS. So people who are on low-end systems, you have no business in running displacement mapping. Turn that off. There's no point of running displacement mapping if you're flying airliners, and if you're flying GA, sure, turn it on. But again, do your testing, because I've seen that this setting really hammers your FPS. Like if you're getting let's say 40 FPS, 45 FPS, you'll probably be getting 35 to 40. So not worth it. I don't run it. I want more of a smooth sim. I don't care about displacement mapping since I mostly fly airliners. Buildings, trees, plants, rocks, grass. I would say if you have a really high-end system, keep it on ultra. Because even if I change these to like high, and medium, and then high, I haven't seen a huge difference in performance. Our baseline is 60 here. You'll see that I'm still able to run pretty much 60 FPS. So no point in really tuning those down. I have made a separate video on these settings and how the performance changes for each of these values, so you can check that out. Object level of detail, that's not a huge hitter. We've already seen that. So far, DLSS, TLOD, displacement mapping, these are the major hitters. Now the fourth major hitter that I want to talk about is texture resolution. If you are on texture resolution ultra, you are for sure going to run out of VRAM and you'll get stutters, because most of us don't have the 32 gigs or 24 gigs of VRAM on our GPU. So it's not worth running texture resolution to ultra. Change it to high. It's not, in terms of visual quality, it's not a big deal. So just take my word and change this to high no matter what system you're using. If you're on a really low end system, change this to medium. The fifth major hitter that I would say are these two: shadow maps and terrain shadows. So right now they are set to 2048, which is the max. Now people would think that, oh, I have a 4080, maybe I should just crank them to max and it should still be fine. But you'll see how much performance we gain when we turn these down to 768 and 256 or even 128. I usually keep it at 128 because visually you really cannot tell the difference between 2048 and the lower settings on these shadow maps. So again, Our baseline was 60 FPS. Let's see how much we gained from tuning these down. You'll see that we have gained roughly 6 FPS by turning that down. And if I turn on my 1% lows, I've gained somewhere around 7 FPS on my 1% lows. So that's some really good gains for someone who's running a low-end PC. So yeah, make sure that you have these two turned down. That's my fifth recommendation to for the settings that you need to turn down for getting the max impact on FPS. Cube map reflections, this setting, you will see that whether you leave it at 384 or 256 doesn't really change your performance by a whole lot. Let me show you that real quick. So we were at 65 FPS. You will gain maybe like 2 or 3 FPS. So if you think you're on that verge of like 3 FPS, 5 FPS lower, it will not seem smooth. But then if you go above 30, it seems smooth. Then I would say maybe turn this to 256. I really like how the reflections look with the cube map reflections turned to max. So I leave it at max just because I can run it. But that's a semi-major hitter, but not really a big deal. And yeah, if you have a weak GPU, turn the ray march reflection down as well. Now road traffic and sea traffic. Sea traffic, I definitely leave it at medium. That's the 6th major hitter. And road traffic also, I definitely leave it on medium. So let's go back. Right now, maybe we will not see any difference here in performance because we are loaded in at the airport, so there's no road traffic enabled. But during your landings and stuff, I would say leave this to medium to get the max performance in terms of like 1% lows and stutters and things like that when you're landing. So that's the 6th setting that really changes the game on MSFS. Now the last and most important one, I've talked about this in other videos as well, and I skipped this because I wanted to talk about this at the end. I keep DLSS frame gen off because whenever I use the default, like the in-game DLSS frame gen, I get a lot of stutters right after I land, and it is so stuttery that it just kills everything. Like I cannot even pan the camera. It's that stuttery. So what I do is I turn it off here and I run lossless scaling on the side to multiply my FPS by 2. And I'll make a separate video for lossless scaling, but I've covered my lossless scaling settings in the video that I uploaded yesterday. So if you want to check that one out, that's available to watch. VSync, I keep it off, but again, that's something I've covered in that video, why I turn it off here and why I leave VSync on the lossless scaling settings. But yeah, DLSS frame gen default has been very stuttery for me, so I use the external program to double my FPS in the sim. One thing I'll say is, if you can try to get more than 50 FPS base, that is really good for overall stutters, better performance in stutters, because if your base frames are low, then that's going to really affect your overall feel. Like if you're getting 20 FPS base, but then you multiply that by 2 and you're getting like 40-50, that won't look good, because lossless scaling or frame gen is not a solution for low frame rates. It's just to make it more fluid when you're already getting good frame rates. Okay, so make sure that you're not cranking all those settings up and driving the base FPS down. Try to get the base FPS at least above 40-50, so that then frame gen will make it look completely fluid. So anyway, like I said, we started from somewhere around 54 FPS, and right now we are at 66, 65, 67, somewhere around there. So those are some quick tips to gain like 10 plus FPS in MSFS, and I hope that helped you guys out some. But again, all of this, the differences really depend on what you're limited by, in terms of whether you're limited by CPU, whether you're limited by GPU VRAM. Every setting affects all of this. But yeah, I'd covered all my settings already, but here are all the settings if you really want to copy them in case you have a very similar system. But I wouldn't advise to copy these settings if you have a different setup, because you'll get completely different performance and you'll probably be disappointed with what you see. But this video was just to show you guys how to optimize your sim and what are the major hitters on your frame rates and on your 1% lows. So yeah, hopefully that helped out, and please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I haven't been doing a lot of live streams, but I'm going to do a lot of live streams now that I have a good setup that I can work with. So yeah, make sure you stick around on the channel. There's giveaways coming as well in celebration of 10k subs. Hopefully we get there soon. But yeah, thanks a lot, and I will see you guys on the next one.